Welcome to an episode of Get
Spooled. Sponsored by
Tampa Fishing Outfitters.
Just saying.
Still the same.
Just saying. Captain. Alpha Marine.
James Beers.
Rick Lyles.
Jason Prieto. Travis and the ones and twos.
I'm behind the scenes here.
So we're a little delayed. We've got some new equipment, new mics.
Same old people though. So any feedback on our volume and our sound would be appreciated.
Definitely. But yeah, we're going to talk fishing. I think that for all of us, fishing's been pretty good lately. I've seen what everyone's doing, and I'm sure we've all got a little different report.
Been work.
That's true. It's been, nothing's come easy, but
my life story.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Bye, Trav.
But
hey, Trav.
Yeah, Travis will be joining us in just a second, as long as he verifies we're running smoothly behind the scenes.
That sounds very loud. We gotta back these way off.
Sounds horrible, is what he says. There we go, Travis. That's the kind of feedback we're looking for.
Okay, does horrible mean loud? Does it mean distorted? Okay.
Game over. He gave the cut sign. We got new mics, new computers.
Bear with us as we try to figure that out.
We're trying to
sounds blurred.
At least the sound's coming through. Let's be positive here. The glass is half full.
Yeah, right.
I mean, come on.
All right. Test.
So. Well, Travis is working on it.
Travis is toning us down. You see
is
the
he back there?
lines?
Oh,
yeah, he's back there.
Oh, okay.
He's back there. But so fishing. It's been work for me. I a lot of stuff. You can tell we've got a moon phase coming up. And we've had some crazy weather, a lot of fresh water dumping out of the river systems.
Yeah.
We've got some stuff jumping around.
Yep.
Fishing-wise, a lot of stuff is moving. Bait's moving around.
With all that rain, what water temperature?
See, that's
down
where
to 83.
Yeah, I saw 82.
But it jumps right back up in 2 days.
Right back up. Saturday
fishing was good until Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. We had that first deluge.
Yep.
And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we just got hammered. Mm-hmm. And for me, and I didn't fish this weekend, but Thursday, Friday, and today were tough days.
Thursday,
I had
Friday, and
today.
Yeah.
Today was tough because I couldn't. The places I wanted to fish today, I had wind and current rolling opposite today, and that made it a little difficult. But still, we caught fish, so I knew there were fish there. The bite was not good.
Right.
So.
I've definitely noticed cooler temps, like going into Friday. So I didn't fish Wednesday and Thursday. It was just too much rain. But Friday when I went out, I went to the first area.
Sound good now, guys.
Good. The first area I went to, and I immediately noticed because you catch your bait in the morning. Water's a little bit cooler. It's still dark. You're doing it on the flats. And then you kind of don't stick your hand in the well or feel anything until you get to your first spot. So I got to my first spot about 8:30, and I was, wow, this feels cool to the touch, and it's different because your hand's in your live well every day. But I could immediately tell, so I went and looked at the machine to see what it was. It was 81. And on Friday, I never marked it over 83.
That's
and
good.
that bite that day that bite was good. And one big difference that water temperature tells you is a lot of the same spots I was checking that day where I'd been struggling on snook, those snook were popping in that water temp. Like throwing out chummers, they're popping. They're eating our baits. They're chasing baits to the boat as they're reeling them in. So the activity on snook was much, much better.
I kind of experienced the same thing, and my bait stayed alive better that day on my leaning post well. I've, I think some of the fishing too this week, you've got a barometer. It's been all over the place with these storm cells coming, sun, storm cells, sun, storm. So I think that is affecting our fishing a lot too. With the bite, it's been a little bit different. We did pretty good on redfish this past week. We got some over slots. We got some medium-sized reds, middle slot fish, some smaller ones. Had to work for them. I really fished the bushes real hard. Tried one of your techniques we talked about on the show, throwing the chum into the bushes. I'd rather do that. Don't know if it made a difference, but I caught redfish. So
No,
hey.
I keep it away.
I
from
throw
the
it into the bushes.
You throw it in. Well, I
Yeah.
tried both.
Yeah.
So, I said, what the heck? I'll throw one in and one out.
Leaving it out from the bushes probably worked better for you.
Well, I was throwing my...
I throw in the
Oh.
bushes, and the bait's not going to stay in there.
Yeah.
And when that bait comes out, so do the fish.
Yeah.
That's why I throw it in the bushes.
Well, I tried both. I tried some different techniques that I haven't tried before for redfish. I was using a split shot with a greenback and almost like a knocker rig. Never done that before, to be honest with you. I've always free line, tail hooked, used a little bit of weight, and I had a lot of success with it.
I love knocker rigs with live bait under the.
Yeah, I've never done it before.
Yeah.
Never. I've just looked at it, and my buddy Jeff is always out. We were in the spot that I was fishing. He was getting them on shrimp. Well, I took 3 dozen shrimp. About after 3 dozen, I was pretty aggravated with shrimp. I mean, you just like, I had a hard time casting the trees.
What you say about shrimp, I got to tell you a story about red fishing this weekend in a minute about shrimp.
Well, the white bait worked just as good as long as I kept it in the bushes at the bottom.
Just got to get it there and get it to stay in the zone.
10-4. So we got some nice reds, overslot, mediums. Snook, we got some bunch of baby snook doing this.
Yeah. I didn't get any big snook this weekend. We had a few on, just couldn't get them.
I haven't hooked a snook over 30 inches in a while.
Yeah.
We got one last month. It's been a weird fishing this year. This summer has been.
It's definitely I think why we say it's been weird or it's been tough is because we treat snook, or we lean on snook as like our fallback, or our it's like
Safeguard,
right?
Safeguard.
That's like our safety net, is to be able to go in. Well, we're gonna go whack some snook. If anything, we're gonna go whack some snook.
Yeah.
And you take that out, which for me, it's been. I'll be the first to admit, snook fishing has been very tough.
Oh no, I'm with you.
So
I'm
when
not
you don't
gonna
have that safety net, now you're really counting on snapper, mackerel, and redfish.
Right.
Or trout, if that's what you want to go do. I really don't want to catch trout right now for several reasons.
Did you talk to Brian today about snapper fishing?
Well, he was at my house, but
I know he was going there. I could not get a snapper to eat today to save my life. I couldn't get him off the bottom. I chummed and I chummed.
I know he had a bad day.
I moved on one pile of rocks about 5 times, and I know I'm on the rocks because I have trouble getting my anchor up, and I'm getting hung up with the lines, and I am just dumping chum to these fish. I can't get anything up, and I told him. I told the 2 guys I had on the boat. I said, normally you'll see them, and they'll come up, and you'll just see this ball of fish, and we get back to the dock, and Brian was there. And I had a flounder and some mackerel, and I walked up to the table, and I started knocking the sides off of them, and he come up there, and I said, man, I hope you had a better day than me. I said, I had a tough day. That was pretty brutal. And he says, yeah, man, I tried to snapper fish. I couldn't get them off the bottom. And as soon as he said that, I just kind of looked over at my guys and they said,
the confirming.
would you call him and tell him to, the confirming nod.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not glad that you had a bad day, but it makes me feel better to know
It wasn't me.
because you could look on the machine and see fish down there. I mean, they were there, but they would not eat and would not come up.
I snapper fished a little bit today, and we got them to come up once. We caught 3 off the top on free spool, and we caught a couple off the
You
bottom.
did good.
But it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of work, and the guys I had were, snapper fishing was just tough. Snapper fishing it's not hard, but if
It's
you have
easy when
clients that don't want to pay attention, it's not going to work out.
In my years, this is what I've learned about snapper fishing. When it's easy, it's easy. And when it's hard,
It's really hard, yeah.
you know?
Well, when it's hard, you have to put
Yeah,
you got to do everything right.
Well, dang, now we're getting somewhere,
That
boys.
is-
I mean, I'm
pretty-
just saying,
hey, I mean,
if I could
Quote
leave you,
unquote.
That's pretty
if
profound.
I could leave you with anything, that's what I'd leave you with. Is
We'll leave then.
when it's I'm done for the night.
That was pretty
You're a
profound.
daggum genius, Gump.
Wow. When it's easy, it's easy. When it's hard, it's
When
hard.
you were having a hard, did you have any shrimp with you?
No. I don't think I've ever had a shrimp in the boat in the month of August.
John Gunner 2-inch pins have been fire for snapper lately.
Yep.
And I have to agree. I had a couple of those, so I got to play around between a trip on from where I was picking a second group up on Saturday, and I made a stop from one side to the other just to check something. And the last couple of times I haven't been there, so I'm kind of waiting for it to get right, And even with shrimp, it hasn't been right. And went by there and dropped a couple white baits down. Those perfect ones you'd think for snapper. Nothing. First pinfish I put down, boom. Snapper.
I believe it. I've been
But-
seeing John's post on Facebook, and
he
been
really has that game down.
yeah. Good work, John. You've been hammering them, hammering them.
No doubt. But you were right. Red fishing, man. That's been the ticket for me.
I wouldn't say it's been great. It's been okay. I did run across a school of fish. We did not catch them. We lost one, and then the jacks were hitting us.
Yeah.
It has been work, but if you put the time in, redfish you typically put time anyways. Just
Yeah.
the type of fish it is. It's a roaming fish. They move around a lot. I tell you this, catching them with weight under the bottom of the trees, they hit like a ton of bricks. We lost some that we couldn't turn, just because they got you underneath there, and you really got to be on them. But it was
Especially when they get up in that 30 plus.
I'd rather hook
Yeah.
one and
In
lose
the
him than never
trees.
hook him,
Yeah.
though.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
big one
Give
that
him a
got
chance.
away. I'll take that all day
That's
long.
right.
Give them a chance.
I mean, I look at him and tell the customer, all I can do is put you on him. It's in your hands after that.
I would say
Yeah,
that
right. That's
I would
right.
say the red fishing in the region I've been in is probably the best I've seen it in number of years. That includes the number of fish, the health of the fish, the size of the fish, and their cooperativeness, if you will. And it's really been, over a 3-day stretch and running multiple different times of the day. It's something I want to go and do with anybody who wants to go do it. Like if they say, I'm not interested in keeping fish, snook and redfish, that's what I'd like to put somebody on. So with redfish, going to these different areas, it's been about water height, not about the direction the water's going. Like incoming, outgoing. This weekend for me was irrelevant. It was when did it get that height to put them right out there before they really want to slide into those trees.
Yeah, it's a window for me too. Like it's like today we came in and we were fighting the outgoing tide because it started running out fast. So I blew in. I told these guys, I said, "Oh, we're right there." I was like, "Let's see." And first bait,
Thought it was cranking.
yeah, well, first bait caught a fish. Second bait, we caught like 3 reds, and then it just got too low. I could tell, like got below them tree lines, and I was like, let's get out of here. Shipped around, got some snook. But it wasn't. I wouldn't say red fishing's good. It's good for what we're doing now. It ain't like we got a bunch of big schools running around like we used to. It ain't like you roll up to any flat and catch them. It's like you got a few spots that are holding fish, and you got to put work in, for me at least, to catch them. And I've put some effort into doing that. The snook fishing, I wouldn't say our snook numbers are down. I'd say our snook are getting a lot of pressure this year. And I'd say the surrounding areas probably numbers are down from red tide event. So it's been a weird year, and I just totally look at the obvious, which is red tide. I think it shifted some patterns of fish, and things are doing different stuff. So
I hear that word come up a lot when we're talking about bait. Like I have people, guides included, that are like, it's got to be the red tide. It's got, you know, because we're talking about the bait and how unpredictable it can be, or how tough it's been, or the size of it. And I keep hearing the word come up, red tide from last year.
I've heard talking about bait. Then I want to get to Scott Gaines's question, but I heard last week at the dock, someone was talking about, and they said there's been some confusion because there were some people thinking it was something they were trying to pass for our area. It's not our area. It's talking about 100 baits on the boat per angler. Biscayne. And there were some people that were confused with that.
I was going to bring that up.
Thinking that was in our area. That is not our area. If you're out there and you've heard that.
Well, because somebody was sharing the information and saying, I can't believe this, blah, blah.
Right.
It's not even for our area.
Right.
So I was actually going to bring that up. Danny, I didn't read into it. Danny called because I talked to Danny. I had saw it and the proposed, and when I talked to Danny, he said, no, it's not even for our area.
Right. But there was some confusion with people thinking that it was our area, and it is not.
Could you imagine FWC pulling you over? Let me count your green bags. That one's dead, sir. It don't count.
Right. But Scott has a question here, and you guys can handle this. Has the amount of rain this year been a problem, or is this the norm? And he's referring.
It's
he
a little
follows
bit more
up
than
with
the
that
norm.
Runoff from the rivers.
I cannot keep bait. I live on the Ruskin Inlet, and I cannot keep bait at my house longer than 30 minutes. It's dead. It's straight fresh water.
Yeah.
And Rick, you're further up than me, so I know the answer to that.
In a place that I caught a tarpon this weekend, trying to get hands on the fish, he made a big splash, all over my face, pure fresh water.
Sure.
Yeah.
But my bait's kept, and I think that was probably because it was a 4-hour trip. It was first thing in the morning. This was towards the end of that, so they lived an easy. They had an easy morning in the well and a lot more space. I only caught enough bait for 4 hours of fishing, knowing I was going to probably do pretty good on redfish and then go after some tarpon. I didn't stuff the well. So I would say that that's the first time in fishing the same areas for a number of years, going to them. That's the freshest water I've ever tasted up there. I don't taste it often, but I know that it's always usually got some salinity. So I wouldn't say it's a problem. I would say that in those areas, those fish, if they're in there to begin with, I don't think the salinity is going to drive them in and out. I think what it lacks in salinity, it'll make up for in more comfortable water temp, at least for those type of fish, like those fish that can kind of get away with being in that fresh water. But like I said, on Friday, after the bad rains, after the ton of rain we got Wednesday and Thursday, the snook were more cooperative in every place I went with those lower water temperatures than they had been in weeks. For me.
Yeah, I had some okay snook days. This past week, I fished
but it was
pretty
right
much
back
every
to
day.
reality by Sunday.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was when we had the cooler weather, and the snook I have been catching are just like 17-inch. Like you'll get like a 23-incher right now is like a big snook for me. It's like, whoa, look at that. So we need September's going to start cooling a little bit, hopefully, and things will start changing around. But the snapper bites, it's been a little bit more work for me, but it's still there if you're willing to put in the work. Travis, I know you've been catching some nice snapper and doing some undersized grouper and some keeper grouper. I've been hitting it sparingly this past few days. You got 4 people on the boat that are novice. It's tough to snapper fish, not unless they're
current.
eating.
It sure is.
It's all tide driven, So I tell my folks, and we talk about it all the time. But that's the difference between what you look for this time of year versus other times of the year when we spend a majority of our trip in the backcountry. You want that moving water. You don't want that water to sit still for a very long period of time, whether it's cold or whether it's hot. Each way will get you, because then it sits and it gets cold, or it sits and it gets hot.
It's closer to that temperature.
So
air temp.
when you're doing that bay fishing game, for me, it just totally flips. What makes it nice though is around those tides and the moons and those better tides. Those are the days where you can sort of get both in. Like if you do want to do some snook fishing or some red fishing, something like that, you can mix that up with that lull in the day to go snapper fishing, hit it for an hour or two, and then just get out of Dodge.
Yep.
The tough part, which I think is a common issue across the bay right now. Not so much for me because what I'm doing, but I'm hearing it is bait, the bait situation. So a lot of times when you're geared up to go, or at least in my case, when I'm geared up to go bottom fishing or fishing in the bay, I'm not really set up 100% of how I'd like to be to go inshore and say snook and redfish. It can make it happen, but especially later in the year, those bigger threadies are starting to. I'm not targeting them as much. I'm not going after them as much. I'm more looking for fry bait, small greenbacks, and like John Gunner said, the small pinfish. There was a comment on here. I saw a buddy of mine, Richard Burnett, joined. He fished with me last Tuesday. Him and his wife, came down from up near the Gainesville area, and they'd never really done any of the bay fishing stuff, snapper, mackerel, grouper. They just don't have that type of fishery where they normally fish. They're used to the redfish and trout. So we did some bay fishing, and he got the biggest grouper came on like a, I don't know, he can attest, it's probably maybe 2 inches, maybe not even 2 inches. Just some pinfish that I was getting in the mix with the greenbacks, and so we've lost a lot of big fish on small baits, particularly on these snapper and grouper spots. But the key to all that is being there when the tide's right, being there when that tide slacks up the most. The further you get into the bay, into the middle of the bay, the less time you've got. That tide switches on a dime. I mean, if you're sitting at your spot and the tide's going out, you're going to get 20 minutes before it starts switching the other way, and then you got another maybe 25, 30 minutes before you got to get out of there, And the first thing I did when I came in the shop today was what? Went and re-upped on some lead because that's your X factor behind that. If you do want to kind of stick it out and wait on those, or kind of fish those fish still, what you're going to need to do is increasingly add weight to get the bait down. And so there's some games you can play around it, but either way, you're working with about an hour around that slack tide before it just makes it not worth it, or you're mackerel fishing. You set up and you just start fishing baits on the surface and do it that way. So
that's what we did today. We fished that out going to about the last spot. Tide was slow and got stopped. I got the snapper to come up once, just a little bit, and we had one drifting back and a few on the bottom. We got a few snapper and then caught her today. Yeah. They were worked though. It didn't.
I'm gonna mess around with that chicken rig that John Gunner was talking about last week, because that's been the thing, is once the tide gets going a little bit more, so you can put that drop weight down there. And the only issue,
shrimp is another one that I don't know if we talked about. I was out for a minute, but shrimp is one of those where you don't have to add a lot of weight to it to get it down. And so even in those stronger currents, a lot of times I'll switch over if I have shrimp and start using shrimp, and I'll actually be a little more successful than a whitebait or even a pinfish. I can control the bait, put the bait where I want to a little bit better. It seems to work a little bit better for us when the tide is moving. And then I like to chum, try to draw the fish up, or drop live bait straight down on those slack tides. So just something to kind of throw out there. A lot of times, too, the shrimp move when the tide's moving. So maybe that's just a natural,
they're used to seeing them drift by.
Deal for them. So
problem with shrimp, man, it's like the pinfish, the little snapper.
You got everything coming.
So you go through that. That's
comments? Man, my comments froze up.
Yeah, I'm getting comments.
I'm getting nothing.
But yeah, like I said, I'm going to try that chicken rig that Gunner was talking about last week when we did our show, and the reason is somebody else even confirmed that when we were talking at the dock this week, one of the other guides, and he said that's what he goes to when it gets moving a little too fast, and he'll switch if he's using small white baits, he'll switch to a nose hook for the snapper. That way, when it does get down there in the current, it keeps that bait looking.
Keeps you untangled too.
Keeps you untangled.
We had a question about best depth of water to chum and cast net bait on the flats. I've been trying to get inside the bar and find the potholes. A lot of the stuff on the bar. We had another hatch of bait this past week. Had a ton of tiny stuff, gill in your 1/4-inch net. So the fight has been to find. I don't really want the real big baits.
Not just whitebait either, thread fins.
Yeah, yep.
There's a lot of small baby thread fins.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until I looked at my well and I've got a scoop of the disc. I was like, man,
well, those are those when you're chumming and they're not coming in. You're like, man, these things got to come in. They got to come in. And that's that small thread.
You do the throw where you try.
You reach out there and you go, dang it.
Yeah.
But snapper, it's fine though.
Yeah.
I try to find potholes. To answer that changes though.
You're dang right it does. And it changes on time of year and what you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah. Right now, potholes inside the sandbar or outside in deeper water if you get right on top of the bar where you see the bait easily, a lot of times, right? At least this week, it changes every week. At least this week for me on the South Shore, it's been the tiny stuff. So, bait, we're gonna have every year for me at least. You have a hatch in July, not bad. There's a mix, good mix. Get another hatch at the end of July, and beginning of August, and that's the big hatch, and that's the micro stuff that takes like 3 weeks, and then we get mid to end of August into September, October. Bait is awesome. The bait's, it's not huge, but it's doesn't gill. Fill the net up. It doesn't die easy in a live well, and it's readily available.
But that
so
bait is also very, very driven by salinity.
Yep.
So
So this year
you'll lose your bait at the mouth of creeks and stuff after a hard rain. So
100%.
only
Piney's a dead giveaway for that one.
The only place I've lost bait at has been up in the river.
I don't mean losing it in your live well. I'm talking about you'll lose it. You catch it there. You'll catch it there one day and then get 2 inches of rain and go back to that creek mouth the next day to catch bait, and it's not there.
Yeah.
Those tide swings too, I think, play into that too, where we see in the summertime where we get these high tides and then these low tides, and I think it just really moves that bait a substantial amount this time of year. Also, I've even found some bait while we're fishing. I haven't been doing a ton of flats fishing. I've maybe been flats fishing 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and we've caught some reds, we've caught some snook. Haven't even looked at trout, but what I've noticed is a lot of the places that I'm fishing and there's game fish, there's a lot of fry bait along the mangrove edges. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but there's a lot of glass minnows. There's a lot of fry bait, pushed up into these backcountry areas that I think is a derivative of these higher tides, and also pushing those game fish back up into areas that, the last few months they hadn't really gotten a chance to be, which is kind of what you were talking about up north.
Yeah.
The more water, the further they're going to go, particularly redfish.
Well, I just went from
Foraging
like a
redfish.
I don't know, 7 or 8 day stretch. I needed a day or two to take a breath, and I'm doing some work on a other boat, putting the total scan transducer on, and I'm gonna take it, and it's time to go do a little bit of R&D on the water.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna check some stuff out, some spots that I have, some numbers, do a lot of base stuff. Might run north, check some stuff later in the week, just because this year has been a challenge. On the South Shore, probably summer fishing's been not up to par by any means. So just time that I used to do this, I hadn't had to do it in a few years, but things change and there's a lot of people in the water. So I'm gonna get out and do some,
gotta explore.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go run around and check some stuff that I've been wanting to check later in the week. Got to get trim tabs and stuff installed in this thing. I need to run it anyway, so it'll be a fun little trip, get out and just check some. I might take my daughters before they get back to school. They've been wanting to go fishing, so. Nice. But that, that'll be fun. It's nice to just get out for a few hours, check stuff out. And
you guys see the thing I posted earlier about the sub sandwiches?
Sub sandwich thing was cool, man. I like that.
I kind of got a mixed. I got a mixed opinion, mixed feedback on that.
It's weird that you're just stumbling across that.
Has it been out?
Hey, Travis, I'm with you, bro. I've never seen it. I thought
my life is.
You put Yeti on that thing, son. It'd be a top
game
seller.
over.
It's better than a bucket, I tell you that.
I like the bucket.
If you have a
like
sub
that bucket
sandwich,
that's better than a freaking Yeti bucket.
No, if you have a sub sandwich that lasts long enough to get soggy, something's wrong, right?
Well, but if you put it in the morning, you gotta wait till lunch.
You do an offshore trip, you may be out there for a while.
Not even. Just if it gets one little piece of ice gets in there and melts.
Yeah.
Dude, trust me.
Well, and a lot of times too,
it's not.
Y'all are not eating your sandwiches fast enough.
Particularly for Subway. Well, what if you get a sandwich at the night before, and then you take it with you, and you're gonna eat it at lunch the next day?
I'm Italian.
It would never make it till morning.
I like Italian subs with oil and vinegar. So when you go and throw that on there.
Well, that's not gonna. That thing.
That won't protect it from that.
No.
But you put the little you put your little pouches in there, and then. Hit it when you're ready.
Funny thing about oil and vinegar. So when I first started these guys brought these sandwiches on, right? And he's like, "Oh, my wife made us this little packet of oil and vinegar, and it was like oregano in it, hardcore oregano. Like I smell it when they walked up. I'm like, all right,
That wasn't
Great,
oregano.
throw them in the throw 'em in the cooler. Let's go fishing. So at some point, and they brought a bunch of beer and all this. At some point, they exploded the oil, vinegar, and oregano concoction inside my cooler. Now I've heard fish smell. All this is hard to get out of a cooler. Try that mixture they brought in the
Try to
boat.
get it out.
I mean, the cooler for weeks and weeks and weeks smelled like it. All the beers in there, they couldn't drink them because they had this film of oil and vinegar and oregano on them. Like you couldn't even rinse it off. We were dunking it in salt water, anything you could. It was so bad, it gave the beer such a bad taste. So they left them in there. I'm
Good
like, oh
gosh.
great,
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna have all these
hilarious.
beers. I end up having to throw them out. Like the film on the cans would never go away, and I'm not one to waste a beer.
That's
you know?
hilarious.
But yeah,
If
so
you would have had the sub keeper,
if I would have had the
oh,
sub
this,
keeper,
what is it, the
Hey,
sub hub?
The
What was it?
subkeeper would have
listen, it
stung,
would have been a
son.
contained
Sub-safe.
spill. It would have been a
The
contained
sub-safe.
spill.
Contain-
But instead, this thing was like the BP everywhere inside
oh my
the
God! Do
cooler.
you hear this, Rick?
It had a nasty oil slick in
Well,
there.
sorry for bringing up old news. I just,
Hey, get in
I
the
thought it
game.
was interesting.
But yeah, I like it.
I thought it was interesting.
I mean,
I
if
said,
you're somebody-
I don't. I'm not an owner. I'm not a. I'm not a customer.
I liked it,
But
Travis.
I thought it was kind of cool.
I thought today, I was like, oh, Travis got a new sponsor. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
right. I'm repping the sub hub or
but
the
it is
sub
cool.
safe.
It is cool. I've seen people have it on boats, and I remember when it first launched, and there was some big hype about it. But it is a cool product because if you eat a sub and you're running the boat all day, and
See, I love
as
subs.
as
A
the
good-
ice starts to melt. Even
There's
when you
nothing
have
worse when
trays,
No, baby, I
Yeah.
didn't buy one.
even when you have trays and things, it can.
Hold on, if you're so sold on it, why don't you buy one?
He's not a sub guy.
I don't. I don't really eat subs that much. So I was kind of like I
Then
said,
how
I'm not a
is that
customer.
Such a cool.
You could have put your banana in it.
I've eaten
You
subs.
could have put your banana
I mean,
on the boat.
I crush those. I don't even let them get on the boat.
I eat subs. I'm gonna have.
I
to-
love
But
subs.
I thought it was a good
So
idea.
I was telling you,
talking to
anyway.
the
subs and NASCAR.
I could probably reach out.
That's
I
the
could probably
perfect
reach out.
combination.
Point, dude. They thought you bought
You
some
know?
stock, serious stock.
I know.
I just threw it out there, man.
Hey,
You
I
know?
liked it. It was.
I
an
get customers that
interesting
get on the
post.
boat, and you guys all have to
Yeah.
admit they get on the boat and they got 14 cases of beer, and then the lady busts out the Publix bag with 18 sandwiches in it,
And it melts.
and
The ice melts
tries
when
to
you put
jam
the
it
beer
in the
there,
cooler,
because it's
so
not
I
a
was like,
Yeti. If it's a Yeti, the ice would
these
melt.
people
It
need the
actually
sub.
makes
These
ice.
people need sub safes. Now we're gonna have all these containers all over the boat. I'll probably end up getting one. Somebody will leave it. I get
Protein
everything.
bar keeper.
Everything gets left behind.
Then you protein
Yeah, it could
bar
be a
keeper.
protein bar keeper or
They'll
Yeah,
be,
'cause you don't
those
want
would be
your broken
little.
part.
They'll just be
Your
little.
protein bar broken.
Little zipper on the side.
Yeah.
Shake it out.
Interesting.
oh.
So where
man.
were we before we got into the sub hub?
I don't know. I was just
Rambling.
ramble.
Rambling.
Summertime fishing, man. It's like we're kind of beating the same dead horse each week on what we're doing.
We're looking for change. You guys mentioned it, but did anybody feel the temperature? Saturday morning, it was like a fake.
Yeah. Like a fake front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got up and I got to the
Oh,
boat.
that feels good.
I got to the boat early and
Oops.
you left about the same time I did. You were picking up and we wheeled out.
That's
And
nice.
I was like, daggum. I might need a jacket.
Yeah.
Oh, without a
I felt
jacket.
that a couple
Really?
times, yeah.
I mean, it for
It
like
was just crisp.
25 minutes.
Yeah.
It was just like
I was in Georgia.
the
so
bait
I-
run. The bait run.
Now,
In
did
the
anybody
morning.
feel the weather Sunday morning? Because Sunday morning,
But
Hot.
it was
I
roasting.
mean, I picked up it. I
Dude,
talked
it
to
was
my group
right
for
back to
Sunday,
summer.
and based on water height, like we talked about with those redfish, I called my guys the night before. I wasn't supposed to pick up till 8:30, and I said, guys, some guys that rebooked me after fishing with me once that week and having a good day, they were like, can we go out again? I said, the only day I have Sunday. And they said, let's do it. So I said 8:30, same place I met him, Hula Bay. But I told him, I said, guys, I called him Saturday, and I said, if we're going to get on a serious redfish bite, I need you at the dock before 7:30. Can you make that happen? Definitely. Whatever you say, Captain. Pick them up at 7:30. We get to the first spot at 7:40. And, I mean, I'm just completely I'm drenched. It's so muggy and so hot.
That's the problem is
which
that
was
humidity
the exact
goes up.
opposite of Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But it was rough, and to make matters worse, it was a really good bite for the first hour. I mean, like fish. So I'm working. I'm pumping baits on, getting fish off, and I mean, like I think I lost 10 pounds in the first hour of my trip Sunday.
Dang.
Which I
Rick,
need,
you ought to catch
know?
more fish.
I need it.
Should. Oh, that was low. That was pretty low.
Well, maybe it's because
Whoa,
I've been
did you hear
not catching
this?
fish.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Hey,
Rick's just. I'm just trying to get him back in the gym
about
on
a
the
year
bike.
ago, this boy.
I'm just gonna keep getting him
out of popies.
I know.
Now he's Mr. Fit.
Go gravy train over there.
Now he's Mr. Fit.
Those biscuits and gravy are good though, man.
Now, he went from eating popies every week to wearing a black hoodie
I
in the middle of the summer on his boat.
I still eat popies. I still eat popies. Popies is good. Yeah.
Poppy salad.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I was trying to find that post where I think Raphael put it, the proposed changes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all want to cover that. I'll see if I can dig it up.
I don't know enough about it, man, to be honest with you, to speak to it. But
I think they were changing a lot of stuff. I know they were talking about taking mangrove snapper to 12 inches, which I'm okay with, from 10 to 12. I think grunts were going to have a limit of 8-inch.
Jeff Horn's going to hit the wall.
No matter what. Listen, there's no
The
matter
big fish was off the
what.
wall.
Jeff Horn will be on suicide watch.
Well, I'm just saying I think we should cover this.
There's no matter what, you're never gonna appease the masses. It's just not gonna happen. You know what
No,
I mean?
I'm not trying to appease. I was just trying to bring
No,
it to people's
I'm
attention.
just saying
But
that
I'm
out
glad you
loud
did bring the
because
bait fish up because
it
that
doesn't
was
matter what it is.
when I
Yeah.
did read that was the dumbest thing I ever
Yeah.
seen. But then when you read it, actually read it's not for us. So you imagine them trying to count 100 greenbacks out there. You imagine every boat.
And you just killed half my greenbacks counting them. What are you doing?
You imagine that?
There was 99 in there.
That
Now I
would
got
be comical.
44.
Yeah.
That would be comical.
Hey,
Every
guys,
boat on the
I gotta go back and catch
Yeah.
more bait.
hey,
What
dude,
about
I
cut
hey,
baits?
Hey, I got the law rolling. Can you take some of these baits for me?
And you can't let
Where's
let
the
them go.
stars force of that? Dude, you gotta give me some of your bait, man. You're overloaded. I'm gonna call in on you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
show
don't
you.
get snitched on chumming
Yeah.
out there too hard.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
Somebody will drop a
How many
dime
baits-
on you.
Bro,
You know, it might actually help our fishing if we quit chumming so much.
it would definitely would.
I guarantee it
if
would.
that law went into effect, man,
I mean,
it
we're all
would be.
guilty of it. I mean, I like
Sure.
throwing the
Oh,
bat.
I'd be
so
a-
100%.
son,
I
I'd
like
be-
throwing the bat.
I'd be
we already
running.
got
I'd be
it
running
on the
outlaw
boat on
every
the
day.
mic, so.
I'd be running outlaw every day. Every day. I'd have me a
Hey,
secret
I
live
have
well.
my phone, Facebook Live. Travis is chumming. Count them.
Secret live well.
I
False
put it on slow
wall.
motion.
False wall with 100 baits.
Prieto, first of all, I know that you could be definitely found guilty within 5 minutes the way you chum.
Yes.
Within 5 minutes, somebody would verify that you just released.
Hey,
100
let
baits.
them eat, son.
But you know what? If they're gone, they're gone. I mean,
You would have to
Hey.
adjust your fishing tactics.
Hey.
This will be my story. I
Well,
had
what-
over 100,
Hey.
and so I let him go at the first spot.
yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't see a huge thing with
Party
some
boats
of
will
the,
fold. Yeah.
Party-
Exactly.
yeah. I don't even know I'm not even sure. There must be an issue down there. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Most
know.
of those guys probably don't use 100 baits anyway.
Yeah,
They're
they're
fishing
probably
with finger
bringing
mullet
25 ballyhoo or
and
something.
daggum
Ballyhoo.
that, or if they're
I'll
up
try
in the
to find the
Everglades,
post while you guys are talking.
they're using daggum Oscars and and cichlids. That's what them big snook eat up there.
But I thought it was an interesting.
Yeah, I saw the proposal, but I just didn't read into it too much. I don't know enough about what's going on with that, and
It's also just a proposal.
just
It's
a
not-
proposal.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So everything gets adjusted. When are we gonna do the prop shop talk?
How about now? Because I need to try a new prop. Or I mean,
Well,
not now,
no,
but how about soon?
You give me the word next week.
Because you're talking to some
We'll run some
somebody
promos.
completely uneducated about props until, working with you on the show.
Well, I
And
mean,
now I'm like, want to try a new prop?
y'all do it next week. We'll run the promos leading into it. We'll do their little thing now.
I don't mind.
We're making.
I want to get that
executive-
prop from you this week and try it though, so I can talk about like somebody who doesn't know a lot of prop, like the differences I'm seeing, and you can explain why.
Okay, let me ask y'all, and I'm asking and I got asked this question today. We went by a boat, had 4 motors. He says, "What's up with that?" He says, "I can see 2 for, if you break down one or whatever." He says, is it fuel efficiency? Is it
No.
more speed?
No.
Because
No, it's a bigger
Speed.
checkbook.
Well, but then why
it's
why
probably
would
speed too.
why would you have 4 instead of 3? I
If you're running 100 miles offshore, and if you can run 80 versus 60, it's just like fishing a redfish
But I've heard
tournament.
that the extra motor only adds like 4 to 6% or 7% more speed.
But I
And I don't know. I've never had
I
a
could
boat
be
more
wrong.
than one
I
motor,
could
so
be
I don't
wrong.
know if it's speed.
But I think it's
fuel
also
efficiency.
the size of these boats, what they're outfitting them with. I mean, this day and age, let's say a 38 center console like we know it, contender, yellowfin.
Well, something like that. You may
Okay.
need that many to power it, but you don't need trips on a smaller boat.
Well, I
Like
mean,
what?
well,
Like-
depends. The 36 with trips.
What is Dill's?
could
What's
run-
Dill's boat?
It's only got twins. It's
That's
a
got- he's got
33.
He used to have
350s.
trips.
That's a 33 or 34.
I would
Ain't
say
that
once
big.
you
Is
get
it
over
that
like
big? Because he
33.
used to have trips
He's
on
got
it.
the 350s.
Yeah, but he
Suzuki's
went
on
to
there.
he went to 350s where he had 225s before.
But he originally had 3 275s.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
They wasn't. They were
Yes.
Optimaxes.
Originally-
They don't make a
Michelle, we saw your
275
question. We'll get
Optimax.
right to that.
It wasn't an Optimax. I'm
There we
talking
go.
15
Ding,
years
ding, ding.
ago.
Round one.
But
I'm
he
saying
had 3
when
275s.
I go by his house.
Rick's in the lead.
He had 3 225
That point.
Oh, but he's giving
Optimax.
him
There's
the
one thing I know is about
Before he had
Point,
the
Jason.
225s, he had 3 275s.
He might have. I didn't even know.
100%.
I heard that he
Yo,
did have
he did.
Verados
Rick
have
for the
problems
win.
with him.
Rick,
And the chop.
100%. And the chop.
100%.
So he went away from the Verados who had problems. So he went, but when he had the
What?
Optimax,
Verados
it
have
was-
problems?
Oh, Verado's got props.
I just got
What?
He didn't have
What?
jet
Yeah,
drives.
this is years ago.
Oh, okay, all right.
You're fine. Just don't stop.
All right.
It's going into OT,
Make sure
bro.
your trolling
Alright.
charge.
You got one.
No.
You got one shot.
So he went from 3 225s to 2 350s.
Right,
It's a lot of math.
right.
Right.
Wow.
He's gonna.
But
kick him off
originally-
with the math.
Oh, well, I don't know what he did back then. Wasn't even. That was
It's
15.
moving
I
in.
was just.
Kill.
I was just starting
Rick,
to guide.
end it. Rick, end it.
Give it a shot. Careful, Jason.
So-
He's a big man.
I don't know
Jason
about the
will let it out.
275.
It's a tie.
but the
It's a tie,
225s
Jason. You can stop.
What's that?
It's a tie.
225 at 675 on horsepower. So he went from
He had
675
825 to start
to
with.
700. So he stayed.
Oh, it's 700.
So he stayed at the same horsepower with 2 engines. But honestly, the weight's probably similar. Just one less engine, right?
I mean,
I just know the
What's the
size of the
weight
boat.
on
The more
the
not if
motor.
you got a trolling motor.
What's the weight on the 350 Suzuki?
770 pounds.
Yeah, something like
Okay,
that.
so he had probably so he's probably on the same weight, just got one less maintenance engine with the same horsepower.
Well, those are
In
better
theory.
now. He's got the double props on
He's got the
them
dual
now.
props on
But he
there.
didn't
Yeah.
have, the other ones didn't.
So he's probably
Yeah.
getting better or similar hole shot with the. I guess the hole shot's better on the. I don't the counter rotating. I've never used.
You'll get really good hole shot, and you'll get a lot better bite at raised, elevated surfaces. Which
So basically,
I guess
throws me
the
off.
answer is
we'll chop.
performance.
So a lot of those boats when they're running in the
Right.
chop, I guess
Performance. Yeah,
The
that's,
offshore
that's,
boats-
that's wide enough.
the
boat
biggest,
scope
the
to
best
say,
answer
yeah.
for that would be performance.
performance on several levels,
Not,
however
not
you want to
fuel,
consider
not
it.
not speed, just the performance of the boat's better.
Performance and hey, look at me.
Well, some boats need
yeah.
4. So like, let's say for instance, like a 42 Freeman.
Yeah, you can't put 3. You got it's a cat haul.
cat, so
you
you
got to
got-
run 2 and
Right.
2.
You
I
can't
get
put
that.
like
2 and 2.
two
you know, so
175s and a
depends.
350 on the other side.
No,
That'd
I
be
mean-
cool if you could.
You just load everybody on
Yeah.
one side. All right,
Everybody
guys.
get on that side.
Not to change the subject.
But Rick, the other thing is too, if you're buying a 42
Here we
Freeman,
go.
That was a
Here we
fail.
go.
That was a
Right.
fail.
OT,
Right.
not 10th inning.
Right.
are you really worried about it?
No.
You're going. Look
No.
at me at that point.
Right.
Right, the big checkbook. Like I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
It's about size. Very well
Send
born. Ray called it.
Sweet.
Hey, before we go though, before we sign out, hang on, we get a question. We got Michelle Caldwell Smith. She's going to be out the Skyway this weekend. What's hot out there right now?
I'd
The
say there's
weather.
probably some max running. The weather's very hot.
Bring
There's
some
probably some
shade.
mango snapper underneath the bridge.
Yep.
Some Goliath grouper probably always live underneath there. What else am I missing here?
We got a guy that comes in the shop a lot, fishes the Skyway, and he's been doing pretty good on gags. Now, this is something he's put in a lot of time to really learn that skill and how to target gags from the fishing
ridge.
pier. But there's gags there. There's going to be snapper. You're probably going to be able to mix in some grunts. But some of those species up in the water column, the last time I went by there, I did see a lot of bait flashing. It looked very small. You can probably bank on the fact that you can get into some Spanish mackerel.
probably
Michelle,
smaller this time of year.
There's some juvenile tarpon up there. There's also some
Yeah.
big schools of jacks roaming around, if that's your thing. And I didn't personally catch any, but a friend of mine thought it'd be cool to let me know that there was like a giant school of bluefish.
Mhm.
And I was kind of like,
Nice. Hey,
I'm all about some
That-
bluefish.
thanks.
we don't
But
like
I took
bluefish and
I
jacks
took it in
don't
stride. I
get
said,
the
"Oh,
love
cool,
they
man. Where they
deserve."
at?" You know,
Hey,
but
bluefish
we didn't
and
go check
jacks
them out.
don't get the love
Hey.
they deserve, and I want to.
neither does
this
houndfish
next
until
year.
Rick
You can
brought
be
it
the blue
up.
jack.
Hey,
I
don't
wanna be the blue jack.
underestimate a good houndfish tournament. Don't underestimate them.
There's one thing that we haven't talked about, and I'm going to talk about it. And Jason will probably laugh when I say this. And
No, I won't.
normally one of the shows through August or normally August, we'll talk about it. And I just like to put it out there: is make sure if you're fishing this time of year, you bring enough water. I mean, it is like super, super crucial with the amount of humidity and how hot it
Yes,
is
so that's
that
tip
we
of the
have
day.
right now.
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
laugh
I've
about
had
that.
because I've had what 3 now.
Yeah,
that have,
okay, I will
like
laugh.
pretty much fallen out on my boat.
Yeah.
Now, and
Kudos to you.
Mostly-
Calmest dude with somebody hitting their head and getting knocked out.
mostly
Calmest guy
dehydration.
on the phone ever
You know.
in the heat of the situation.
But it and that's something that, I mean, every year I sort of hard press even more and more. I've always got water on the boat.
Yeah.
In fact, we were doing the kids camp a few weeks ago, and I had like a dozen waters. I was taking the kids out, and I looked up at Thompson. I was like, "Hey man, how much water you got on board?" And he's like, "Well, I got a few extras if you need." I said, "I'll take them if you don't need them." It's just if you and the
You
rule
gotta
that
keep up with it.
the rule
So
that I had on the
Jason had
boat.
no water, and he had
water
50.
and
Well, no, he said he had extra, so I was just like, but one of the rules that I
Jason
try to
wanted to
tell
go in
people, or
early.
one of the things that I try to tell people is if you open a water, most people have got a 12, 16 ounce water. If you open a water on the boat, drink it all. Don't put it back in half empty. Just open it and make sure you drink the whole thing. You might not be thirsty, but go ahead and drink the whole bottle of water before you put it away. You drink 2 or 3 of those during a trip, a normal 4-hour trip,
good.
you'll feel all right. It's the folks that get so busy, so tied up with fishing,
Yep.
they don't realize that they're sweating and they're exhausting all the energy out, and they end up at the dock with a headache or belly ache, and they kind of conk out.
On
So
the
Travis's
on the fish
fitness tip of the week.
Yeah.
fitness tip of the week, bro.
on the
Drink your
fish's
water.
behalf, revive them.
Revive
Especially red fishing right now. Like,
Yeah.
give an extra second to make sure
For
that
sure.
red fish is good to go before you let them go.
for sure.
I've had a few clients that want to release them, and you just need to really be sure. But
Monty, there's not going to use it as an example, brother, or Chris. Not
Yeah.
going to use it as an example, but we had a scare with Chris not too long ago, James and I.
yeah,
So it's a real thing. It can happen to anybody. It's just something that, honestly, if you feel dehydrated, it's too late. That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
And it's more often than not going to be a life-threatening or a
Yeah.
serious condition, but it could be,
Yeah.
and just nothing to take
I've
lightly,
had
man.
to between the bait and the pickup. That's when I'm really making sure I get water in my system. I try to drink a couple bottles because I have a habit of getting.
You're
so
right,
busy.
Jace. I'm going to make sure I had enough.
But speaking of which, I need to go hydrate.
So, all right, guys. Well, hey, listen, we're going to keep
Hopefully our
moving
mics
through
were
this.
better. Give us a rating 1 to 10, and we'll work on it. And next week we'll do the prop show. You
We
guys
will
got
try,
the
yeah.
promos. We're
You
going to
bring
talk.
the props. You got a prop shop at your house, so
Well, if you got to take that one back off your boat by next week.
all right.
So we're gonna bring some props in. We're gonna bring some hub kits, and we're gonna talk the basics on propping your boat out, what to look for, and hopefully get you guys rolling smooth on the water.
Cool.
So until next week, tight lines, catch them up.
We'll see you.
Out.